Okay, hi everyone. Thanks for being here. Just off the top, I'd like to point out that yesterday StatsCan published some upward revisions of Canada's GDP. They revised upward GDP for 21, 22, and 23. That is some welcome data, and it makes me even more optimistic that after a really challenging time and the deepest recession since the Great Depression itself, Canada is on track for a soft landing. I'm here together with my colleague, Minister Joly, because we just had earlier today the first meeting of the Canada-U.S. Cabinet Committee, which I will be chairing with Minister LeBlanc as the Vice Chair. This committee will be an operational, action-oriented committee. The idea is that it will operate in the way that the COVID committee operated, bringing together ministers to address in a working fashion an urgent issue. We had a really, really good, very productive, very constructive conversation. We focused on the Canada-U.S. trading relationship and the border, and we agreed that we will be meeting often, and we'll have another meeting early next week. Yesterday, we've also, all of us have been working hard and talking with Canadians and American counterparts over the past few days. Yesterday, I met with leaders from the steel sector in Hamilton. I met with leaders from the auto parts and auto sector in the GTA, and I met with the leaders of Canada's biggest banks. I also spoke with Denis Shmyhal, the Prime Minister of Ukraine. Later today, I'm going to talk to the leaders of the Maple 8 pension funds. Tomorrow, I'll be in Alberta, and I'll be meeting with leaders from our oil and gas sector. And I'll also be meeting with the Ukrainian-Canadian community. In Alberta tomorrow, we'll actually be celebrating the 50th anniversary of the Ukrainian-Canadian Congress in Alberta, and I'll be speaking there. On Tuesday, I'm going to be meeting with Canadian Labour leaders. Notre réunion du comité du cabinet était une excellente réunion, très fructueuse. On a l'intention que ce comité soit opérationnel, soit dans mode solution. Comme notre comité du Covid, aujourd'hui, on a discuté surtout les relations économiques entre le Canada et les États-Unis. On a aussi discuté la frontière et on a l'intention que notre comité du cabinet aura une autre réunion la semaine prochaine. Et évidemment, ma collègue, la ministre Joly, était là avec moi. Et un groupe de nos collègues, et on est prêt à répondre à vos questions. Peut-être Madame Joly veut ajouter quelque chose.
Merci. Okay, je vais juste être grande. Okay, parfait. Ben, ça me fait plaisir de vous voir. Hi, everybody. It's good to see you. On my side, I want to thank Chrystia for chairing this important committee. We've said since the beginning that we had a plan. We have a plan. The Prime Minister has already had the chance to talk with the President-elect, Mr. Trump. Also, we have this new committee which will be very operational, like Chrystia mentioned. And at the same time, on my side, I've been reaching out to 3 levels. First, I'm, of course, in contact with still President Biden's office and also with the Secretary of State. So that's the first part, because, of course, let's all remember, President Biden is in office until January 20th. Second, I've been in contact also with many key influencers within the Trump administration. And so I'm continuing to advocate for Canadians and make sure that we can address the different issues that we will be working on together. And finally, I've been in contact with key senators' teams because, of course, as we know, what is going on right now is Senate is being organized. We're still waiting for the entire results from the House, but basically we need to make sure that we reach out to Congress. And so that's the work that I've been doing on my side. Meanwhile, I've been also in contact with the world outside U.S. and Canada. So I've been in contact with foreign ministers of Ukraine. I've had a long conversation with the Foreign Secretary of the UK. I've been also in contact with my colleagues in Germany and in France, and looking forward to continue these conversations as, of course, I also met with the African Union yesterday. So we're doing both. We're investing in the relationships we have in the US, so south of the border, but also in the world. Donc, je vais pouvoir juste vous parler en français également. Ça me fait plaisir de participer à ce comité très important. Et je remercie Chrystia pour la présidence du comité. On a eu l'occasion de parler des intérêts que l'on a en commun, bien entendu, avec les Américains. J'ai eu l'occasion, au cours des derniers jours, d'être en contact avec 3 niveaux de personnes au sein de l'administration américaine. Premièrement, bien entendu, l'équipe Biden, donc avec la Maison-Blanche, mais également avec le secrétaire d'État américain, Tony Blinken, également avec l'équipe de Trump lui-même et finalement avec l'équipe de sénateurs, parce qu'on doit comprendre que le Congrès américain est très important. Donc, c'est aussi le travail que j'ai fait au cours des derniers jours. Entre-temps, j'ai également parlé avec plusieurs ministres des Affaires étrangères du monde. Donc, certainement une longue conversation avec mes collègues de l'Ukraine, mes collègues de la Grande-Bretagne, de la France, de l'Allemagne, et également plusieurs conversations avec d'autres ministres des Affaires étrangères, notamment aussi avec le haut représentant de l'Union africaine qui était à Toronto hier. Alors, ça me fait plaisir de répondre à vos questions. Merci.
Minister Freeland, if Mr. Trump follows through on tariff threats, is Canada willing to put reciprocal tariffs on the U.S.?
Thank you for the question. We did discuss at some length today the Canada-U.S. trading relationship. I want to start by reminding us all that today our trading relationship is governed by President Trump and Ambassador Lighthizer trade deal. We renegotiated NAFTA. We now have the USMCA. It's a deal that we agreed with them. That's really important for Canadians to bear in mind. The President and Ambassador Lighthizer have both talked about this deal as being a model trade deal, and I agree with them. The Prime Minister had a good conversation with President-elect and President Trump this week, and I've been in really frequent contact with Ambassador Lighthizer this week. I've stayed in touch with him and actually met with him in person over the summer. In terms of what the future may hold, we know that our trading relationship with the United States is strong and mutually beneficial. The unique position that Canada has with the U.S. as a trading partner is based on the reality that we are the most important export market for the United States by a long shot. Canada is a bigger export market for the United States than China, Japan, the UK, and France combined. Think about that for a minute. That means that, sure, they are important for us, absolutely. They are an important market for Canadians, and they are important as a country whose supply chains and our own are so closely integrated. But the thing for Canadians to remember is we are important for them too. And we really learned that during the 232 steel and aluminum conflict. And at that moment, we did take a step, which we took really reluctantly and with no pleasure, which was when those illegal tariffs were imposed on Canada, we did respond. with dollar-for-dollar retaliatory tariffs because we knew it was important to defend the national interest. What's important about that whole experience is that Canada and the United States agreed at the end of the day that it didn't make sense for our two countries to have those tariffs imposed. And it was Ambassador Lighthizer with whom I did a deal, he did a deal with me, that those tariffs on steel and aluminum would be lifted. And just a final point about the strength of that partnership. Yesterday I was in Hamilton meeting with leaders of the Canadian steel industry. And specifically, I was at Stelco. Stelco has now been acquired by Cleveland-Cliffs. That is a U.S. steel company which is owned by Lourenço Gonçalves. He is a major Trump supporter. He has real confidence, and he spoke about this yesterday in Hamilton, that because the Canada-U.S. economic relationship is so mutually beneficial, it will endure. And he's put his money where his mouth is. So just think about this for a minute. A significant Trump supporter, a significant U.S. steel producer, has made the decision to acquire a Canadian steelmaker which depends very significantly on Canadian steel exports to the United States. To me, that is a very powerful proof point of really the fundamental economic rationale, the fundamental economic benefit that both countries get from the economic relationship.
I know that's your plan, but
Il y a le IRA qui est en place présentement, qui ne fait pas l'affaire de M. Trump. Et on a au Canada la clause miroir, c'est-à-dire qu'il y a certaines compagnies comme Stellantis et Volkswagen qui pourraient peut-être perdre ce financement-là ici au Canada. Qu'est-ce que vous leur dites en ce moment pour les rassurer que vous serez là et serez-vous là pour les compenser si vous devez éliminer ces subventions-là?
Merci pour la question. La logique économique pour nos subventions était la politique américaine. On comprend qu'on a un marché très, très uni. On a un accord de libre-échange et c'était très important pour le Canada de ne pas perdre les investissements étrangers. Et pour cette raison, on a agi très vite et le Canada est le seul pays qui a mis en place une suite de programmes qu'on peut comparer avec IRA. Et c'était une bonne chose, c'était nécessaire et c'était efficace. On a attiré des investissements. Mais on n'était pas naïf. Et on a compris que ces mesures étaient en place pour être compétitifs avec les États-Unis. Et pour cette raison, on a mis dans nos accords avec les investisseurs une clause que si les subventions ne seront pas en place aux États-Unis, le Canada ne doit pas payer. Alors, je pense que c'est démontré qu'on a prévu que le monde pourra changer. Je pense que c'est une politique intelligente et je suis content qu'on a fait ça.
Donald Trump has said he doesn't like you very much. Donald Trump has said that he doesn't like you very much in the past. What makes you the best person to lead the Canadian government's efforts here?
I think that President Trump will obviously speak for himself, and I would never put words in his mouth. But in my experience, President Trump respects strength, and he respects people and countries who are strong and clear in defending their countries, in defending their national interest. That's what I've always done, and that's what I will continue to do. And the proof that that approach works is, I would say, threefold. One, we did a really good trade deal with the previous Trump administration. We did a win-win deal that works for the U.S., that works for Canada. I think that we are going to find that some of the key measures in that deal, particularly being clear that good jobs, good paying jobs need to be retained in any trade deal. That's kind of the heart of the innovation of the USMCA, and we did that together. Second proof point, hang on, super quick. Second proof point is we were successful with the steel and aluminum tariffs. Canada was unique in that regard, and we see how our steel and aluminum industries are benefiting from that. That was a deal that we did, that I did with Ambassador Lighthizer, who continues to be a really influential person with President Trump and his team. And then the final thing, which is a real change in the world, and something I think positive for Canada, is what Canada has done with tariffs on Chinese EVs, on Chinese steel, and on Chinese aluminum. That was a big change in Canadian trade policy. It was a recognition that Chinese oversupply is a danger to our economy, to our manufacturers, to our workers. That is something, actually, that Ambassador Lighthizer and President Trump have been calling for and talking about for some time. Canada is very aligned with the United States in that respect, and that's a final area where I see a firm foundation for our work together.
Are you open to exempting the dairy sector from
Comment allez-vous faire pour accélérer les dépenses militaires pour atteindre le 2%? Comment accélérer comme M. Trump le veut?
Merci pour la question. Le Premier ministre a annoncé un plan absolument clair pour atteindre le 2%. Je veux aussi souligner que quand on était élu, les dépenses militaires étaient 0,9%, moins d'1% sous le gouvernement conservateur. Alors notre gouvernement a fait des investissements majeurs dans la défense. C'est nécessaire, on est fiers de ça. Et je veux aussi souligner qu'en tant que partenaire pour tous nos alliés dans l'OTAN, en tant que partenaire pour les États-Unis, un partenaire militaire, le Canada est fort. Le Canada est un des pays qui est un leader dans les missions Enhanced Forward Presence. Nous sommes le leader à la Lettonie et c'est un rôle important, un rôle qu'on a pris au début. Le Canada, évidemment, est un leader dans notre appui pour l'Ukraine. On a commencé notre appui militaire pour l'Ukraine avec l'opération Unifier en 2015 et on est là depuis ce moment. Le Canada est le 7e pays dans l'OTAN et en plus, on a des relations très particulières avec les États-Unis parce que nous sommes le seul membre État de l'OTAN qui est aussi un voisin des États-Unis. Et on est très de collaboration avec les Américains dans NORAD. On fait un travail ensemble, on fait un travail collaboratrice avec les Américains dans la défense de notre frontière en Amérique du Nord. Et le Canada, notre gouvernement, a investi milliards et milliards et milliards de dollars en plus dans NORAD. Alors, je sais que les Américains apprécient le Canada comme un voisin et comme un partenaire.
Are you open to exempting some sectors like dairy from the?
I'm gonna let Minister Joly add something to this, and then we'll take a couple more questions.
Thank you. Je pense, Émilie, à ta question. Ce que les Canadiens doivent se rappeler en matière de défense militaire, c'est qu'on triple notre budget. Et on triple notre budget particulièrement en investissant chez nous dans notre défense qui va bénéficier aux États-Unis. Donc, on investit dans l'Arctique, dans le Grand Nord. Et c'est ce que les États-Unis s'attendent du Canada. Et c'est pourquoi on est convaincu que notre approche en matière de défense, c'est également une position gagnant-gagnant. Et lorsque le ministre de la Défense et moi avons travaillé sur la nouvelle stratégie de défense, nous avions en tête, potentiellement, qu'il pouvait y avoir 2 candidats à la Maison-Blanche. Et donc, nous sommes convaincus que, dans les circonstances, nous allons pouvoir répondre aux intérêts du Canada, mais aussi aux intérêts des Canadiens et des Américains. Et c'est pourquoi nous serons là à Washington pour en parler. Et c'est pourquoi j'arrive également avec une stratégie sur l'Arctique. Et nous aurons l'occasion aussi d'aller au Halifax Security Forum pour vendre cette position-là, qui est très, très importante pour nous, mais aussi pour les Américains.
Sur la frontière, vous parlez du plan qui a été discuté?
Bien entendu, nous avons parlé de la frontière ensemble au cabinet. Les ministres de la Sécurité publique, Dominique Leblanc, et les ministres de l'Immigration, Mark Miller, font partie du comité. Et bien entendu, on sait très bien que les Canadiens ont confiance dans notre système d'immigration, mais c'est à nous de travailler pour maintenir cette confiance-là. C'est pour ça que nous avons diminué les seuils d'immigration de 20 % et c'est pourquoi c'est une priorité.
Oui, et je veux juste ajouter, parce que je suis tellement d'accord avec ce que Mélanie a dit, concernant la défense, concernant sa stratégie pour l'Arctique, très important, plus important aujourd'hui que jamais, concernant aussi la stratégie industrielle pour la défense. C'est très important pour le Canada. Oui, c'est une politique pour la défense, c'est une politique pour la sécurité, mais c'est aussi une stratégie, une politique économique, comme Mélanie a juste dit. Concernant la frontière, on était très intentionnel en choisissant les enjeux qu'on a discutés aujourd'hui dans notre première réunion du comité du cabinet. Premièrement, nos relations économiques entre le Canada et les États-Unis. Je pense que tout le monde comprend l'importance de cet enjeu-là. Et deuxièmement, la frontière, parce que nous comprenons que c'est un enjeu très important. C'est un enjeu important pour notre gouvernement, mais c'est un enjeu important pour les Canadiens et Canadiens. Contrôler notre frontière, savoir qu'on est vraiment un pays souverain qui contrôle notre frontière, c'est fondamental pour la sécurité des Canadiens et Canadiennes partout au pays. Et pour cette raison, c'était une des deux enjeux qu'on a discuté aujourd'hui.
What's the plan? Are there going to be more CBSA guards at the border? What are you going to do about increasing strength there?
As Mélanie said, it's quite intentional on the part of the Prime Minister. First of all, that Dominique LeBlanc is the deputy chair of this committee. That's really a sign of how important this issue is for Canada and for the Canada-U.S. relationship today. It's also entirely intentional that Minister Miller is a member of the committee. We have a plan, and we are working to elaborate it further. I'm not here today to announce more details of it, but I do want Canadians to know it is one of our two central points of focus. Ministers are working hard on it, and we absolutely believe that it's an issue that Canadians are concerned about. Canadians are right to be concerned about it, and Canadians need to know that we're a sovereign country. Our borders are safe and secure, and we control them. And the only other thing I'll say is this week I've also had conversations with a number of premiers. I know other colleagues have done so. So we're going to need to take a real Team Canada approach on all of these issues.
On China tariffs, you wrapped up a new consultation last month on China tariffs. Can you give us an update on what you heard and what we should expect is coming next on that?
I don't have an announcement to make on further China tariffs today. I will say that those tariffs that we announced in the summer and that came into force in October are really essential when it comes to protecting Canadian workers, and they're really important as well as a new foundation for the Canada-U.S. relationship and as a point of really clear alignment between Canada and the United States. When I met in person with Ambassador Lighthizer over the summer, that was one of the issues that we discussed. You're quite right that there are some other consultations and there are some other decisions we need to take, and we will have announcements on those in the days to come. One other related area that it is worth highlighting is circumvention. And at my meeting with the steel industry on Thursday, and actually had a meeting I had with the steel sector last Friday in Sault Ste. Marie, circumvention was an issue that Canadian producers raised. It's something we take seriously and will be looking into as well.
Just Freeland, can I just say, you talked about the premiers. Will Pierre Poilievre also be part of Team Canada and opposition parties in general?
You know, I very obviously cannot speak for the leader of the official opposition. But what I can say is in the conversations I've already had this week, I spoke with Liberals, I spoke with people from the NDP, and I spoke with Conservatives. I really believe that Canada, at our best, we have a capacity to recognize when there is an issue that touches the national interest. And at our best as a country, we have a capacity, when we recognize such an issue, to work together. We did that during the first Trump administration when we renegotiated NAFTA, and that really was a Team Canada effort. On my NAFTA council, a prominent conservative, Rona Ambrose, was a member of that council, and she played a really important role, and actually, I think I can say that she's become a friend. We're actually both from small towns in northern Alberta. So that was really important. Equally, during COVID, we had a real Team Canada approach. We had very regular meetings between the Prime Minister and all the premiers, and that contributed to a really strong and effective Canadian COVID response. Had Canada suffered the mortality levels that the United States experienced, for example, an additional 70,000 Canadians would have died. Think about that. Those are, you know, our parents, our grandparents, our aunts and uncles who wouldn't be here. And we were able to do that because of a Team Canada approach. So I really hope and believe that that's the kind of approach we need to take today. Thank you. Thank you.
Just to answer that question, and Chrystia has said everything about us not wanting to be partisan, and of course we won't. The question is whether Pierre Poilievre will want to be partisan and defend Canada's interests. Our goal is to make sure that we work all together.
Why do you